If you can hear me, wave to me so I might make sure that, oh, good. Yeah. Oh, hey, hello, everybody. Wow. Overwhelming. Got a lot of people here. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll get started in about half a minute here.
Hey, George,
Yes.
is your phone off?
Is my phone off? Which one? It's in the other room. I put a blanket over it. Thanks, Craig. I need you.
I just turned mine off.
All right, we'll get started here, folks. Thanks for being here. That's my teddy bear. It's always been with us. So, are you troubled by time adjustment stuff? Well, I was, and this was my solution actually almost over 20 years ago when I was doing a lot of house appraisals, and I found the time adjustments were quite helpful. Why me? I just happen to have a set of education, mostly economics and econometrics, where I learned stuff about time series analysis, which is what this price indexing is. From people that really knew what they were doing. A couple of them were Nobel Prize winners who won their Nobel Prize in time series analysis at UCSD. So economics, econometrics is a measurement of economic things. Well, guess what? That's what we do for a living. So I want to thank you all for being here. You've heard a couple of words there from Craig, who helped out last time. I really appreciate it. And then Cindy, you've heard her voice a few times. She's the executive director of our school here. Does an absolutely incredible job. This would not be here today if it were not for her. And Craig has a different and more practical viewpoint on some things. I guess it was designed that way. I'm going to provide more of a theoretical background, and Craig is going to do about 20 minutes to half an hour after the break and an hour actual hands-on in his MLS. So you'll see two different MLSs, although the functions are really similar. What we're doing here today is a small part, but a small but important part of what people have come to call modernization of appraisal. It's happening slower than I thought, but it's going to happen in the next 2 to 4 years once FHFA and the Fannie Freddie start pushing stuff. The last time we did this, we had we got over 100 people the last time about 3-4 weeks ago, and we paid the extra money to go to 500, and the sales department assured Cindy that everything was ready to go. She said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "Absolutely." Well, when we got on, so I need to apologize to some of you there who were not able to get on last time. I'm glad you're back here. Thanks so much. But that's what happened. This time we had to pay the extra amount to get to 1,000. Folks, we had right on 1,000 people register for this webinar. As I jokingly tell my friends, we finally found the right price point. We got it. Free is good. We'll make it up in volume, right? So that's soon. Continuing education, no. I need to throw this out. If you have any ideas, the bureaucracy and red tape and cost of doing even a 2-hour thing like this is about $7,000, and about a month's time on one person. It's about 150, 200 forms, separate different forms. So it's almost impossible with today's regulatory system to provide this kind of education. It just isn't. So if you have any ideas, please let us know. We're looking forward. I'd really like to do more of this because we're successful here. We're certainly how many of you are on here, and I appreciate that. The mission of my company, me, is to connect you, the expert in a narrow field, but an important one, with the potential of data science tools. It makes possible other things. We have other services and analytics that we can sell that are really needed out there in the market, like risk analysis, plugging the appraisal into that. When I became an appraiser, I had a lot of self-worth being an appraiser. I was looked upon as an authority figure, and that's no longer true. So getting some personal satisfaction is important. Hopefully we can help change the regulatory burden with FHFA and Fannie Freddie making changes I'm hoping that that's possible. And really get back to our ultimate purpose of being a profession, which is strive for the public good. So what happened to me? Well, it's kind of a long story. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I got pretty screwed up there and I have a pretty serious case of post-traumatic disorder. I didn't know what was wrong with me for about 10 plus years. Went back to school, back to my academic love, which was economics. And by then I was already an appraiser. So everything I took for a number of years after that, graduate level classes, was all about how can I apply this to valuation, to appraisal. So that's what happened to me. What do we sell? Well, education, the primary class is Stats, Graphs, and Data Science 1, which is $300. We've got it coming online later next month, 4 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. There's a discount on that for people that are here. Free weekly blog, which if you sign up for this class, you're signed up for that. A couple of people have asked, do we have a handout in this class? Well, the answer is no, but it's actually yes, because the blog itself is indexed and you can search stuff on there. There's several articles on price index and time adjustments. If you want to help in the movement more generally, the Asset Analyst Report comes out roughly once a month. I have other contributors to that. Goes into some of these topics really deeply. In fact, about a 6-page time adjustment segment not too long ago. If you get both of those together, you get a huge discount. It's really worthwhile. Half price off on the class. So what are the ways to adjust for market conditions? Well, you can ignore it. And folks, I've heard that there's a lot of appraisers out there, residential in particular, and commercial, are just flat ignoring it and trying to find ways around that. Everybody's so rushed that they're getting away with it. That's not going to continue. Zero. Zero is called the reason of insufficient, the fallacy of insufficient reason. If it's too hard to figure out, just call it zero. Well, zero is a number also, and it's just as likely to be a wrong number as a right number. So a lot of people are using just most recent comps and saying that's my solution and getting away with that too. National price index really only deals with the change in the value of the dollar, but not your neighborhood or your market segment. That's broken down into regions. There's several compiled sources doing cities and census tracts and zip codes. Most of them do paired sales, resales over the same property reselling twice, which sometimes is good, sometimes not so good. Neighborhood is where I started doing this stuff, which is basically you're going to see a scatter graph and a simple regression line. And I kind of assumed that the neighborhood was close enough. Back in those days, Fannie and Freddie, all they cared about was how's the neighborhood doing. Nobody even thought about what's actually competing with the subject property. So what we do in this class is, here's an example of where we're headed today. How to get the data right, how to do the scatter graph, how to put this linear trend line on here. Now this is for a neighborhood. You got properties down here. So this property here sold in like about 1st of March of 2008, and it sold for $210,000 roughly. So each one of those dots is a time and a place. So this one sold for about 200,000. This one sold for close to 600,000. Clearly not the same market. So that's our next goal, is to get from the neighborhood to the market, competitive market segment. What's actually competing with the subject property? That's the best price index. There's probably a number of commercial appraisers on here today. The same system works absolutely the same for commercial, for different units of measure, price per unit, price per GIM, price per cap rate, cap rate per day change, that type of thing. Okay. So price indexing example. I just want to show you a couple of them really quick, the mechanics of doing this, and I'll do it in Excel and in Numeric. In my classes, we use Numeric, which is an open source spreadsheet that's very similar to Excel and the other open source spreadsheets. So let me go to Excel. Okay, that's it. Okay, everything I just said, I'm going to say again, only faster. I'm going to extend select over the two columns, the date of the sale and the price of the sale. Now I'm rattled. I hate that. So I go to insert. a chart right here. Scatter plot, it goes in very quickly. There it is. Now to put a linear trend line through that, which basically shows you the trend visually. I'm going to click on this X right there, go down here to trend line. What kind of a trend line? We want a linear. And just for the heck of it, really quickly, let's go ahead and add the formula. Behind the line is a formula, a mathematical formula. I'm going to click on more options. And I want a linear trend line. Display equation on the chart. I'm clicking this right here. There it is. It's kind of small. I can make it bigger by making the font bigger. The point of all this is that this number right here is your time adjustment. The real point of all this is if you get the data right in the first place, if these are truly properties that competed directly with the subject property, this is the time adjustment for this market segment. And that's, so what's on the x-axis is time measured in days. What's on the y-axis here is price measured in dollars. So this 33 is $33 per day of time adjustment. So if your comparable sold 100 days ago, what's your time adjustment? It's 100 times 33. So it's going to be $3,300 is your time adjustment. Is it negative or positive? Well, the slope is downwards and there's a little tiny minus there. So that's it on that, folks. I want to go through this quickly. I'm going to put this one away and get a new share, which is going to be doing the same thing in numeric. Oh, I don't have that up there. We'll skip it. It's so similar numeric, and I'll do another one for you later on. Okay, I'm trying to get the screen to shift here. Okay, there we go. We're back where we started. All right. So what we've done now is have seen an example of how to get to this competitive market segment. In this particular 2 hours we got today, we don't really have time to get to data selection, even though that's really, really important. If you want to use what you learned here today, continue doing exactly what you've always done, is using your best judgment on what is truly competitive. As we get into our classes, Stats and Graphs 1 and 2, we get into algorithms, methods the economists use for classifying data. We do get into that, but we don't do that here today. You'll still get a very good result. And when you use the more sophisticated objective methods, you're going to get something that's reproducible. It gets rid of the subjectivity of reviewers. So our goals here: an overview of price indexing. What are the benefits to you? It's really powerful. Sometimes your best comp might be a year and a half ago or 3.5 years ago. If you got a reliable adjustment, suddenly that becomes your best comp. You're really expanding your data sets. We're going to look at how do I select the data very briefly. Actually, I just said that. Use your best judgment. That's all we're going to be able to do in this class. The graph helps you see the market rather than just comps. What visuals works the best, which graphs, you're going to see examples of at least a couple of them. And when can the results be verified? And how is adjustment applied? Well, we just did a fly through on all of that real quickly here, but we'll get into it more. How long does this all take to do? Once you've done it 5 or 10 times, folks, I guarantee you, once you've got the data downloaded, you can do everything I did in about 45 seconds. And it'll take you about another 15 seconds to cut and paste and put it into your report. It's that quick. Once you get, it just becomes mechanical. And then getting the data right, of course, whatever amount of time you want to put into that. Okay, so the process, 6 steps. We show our calculations in a spreadsheet like you just saw. We will do a very brief, hopefully we'll have time near the end of the class to introduce you to R, which I and a group of us are using more and more. It's a true analytics package rather than a spreadsheet or form software. And you know darn well that forms are going away. The 1004, in the next year to 3 years, it's going to be gone. We'll just be using dashboards. Demonstrate exploratory graphs and calculations. You've actually seen a quick one on that, and how to paste that in there. That's super easy. Most of you know how to cut and paste stuff. I'm going quickly here because I really want to get to the meat of it and then leave plenty of time for Craig to do a live off the MLS download. The benefits is you end up with almost a bulletproof time adjustment. Folks, I had an office with 9 appraisers, 7 of which were residential appraisers at the time. I've used this method on probably, well, I would say mid thousands of appraisals. I only had 2 of them ever come back for any reason. One was something stupid that I did. Another one was a stupid reviewer that wanted me to bracket the time adjustment. He said that all my adjustments went the same direction. And I said, okay, we'll wait a few weeks till we get a sale later on, and we'll do the opposite direction adjustment. 2, folks, I mean, literally for thousands of appraisals, they just never came back. They just never come back. This is really a good tool to prepare for appraisal modernization, because there's going to be more focus on market analysis rather than adjusting comps. It gives you a feel and an introduction to some cool tools. Reduce and kill reviewer issues. Don't kill a reviewer, just kill the issue. Why market price indexing? Well, it's the most relevant data set is the market. The price is, that's all the data we need is just the sale price. And it's an index because it applies to the market rather than to your comps. I hope that background noise isn't so bad. Looks like they're cutting a tree or something in the yard, so bear with us. All right, so in this class we show you the mechanics of price indexing based on your judgment, not objective methods, which we do have and we are teaching in future classes that really guarantee you that bulletproof concept. But if you do a good job of picking your concept, you're still going to end up with a credible result, even though it's subjective. For objective results, we're going to go into those other similarity algorithms to produce an objective result that are also fair. You don't have to defend them because there's nothing to defend. So we do that in Stats and Graphs 1. What's important? The practical price indexing. You got to control your market area data for your key variables. For residential, it's going to be typically living area, square foot. For commercial properties, it could be per unit, per square foot, whatever your property type happens to be. And any other key variables. This is where your prior knowledge really just fits right into the new tools. Go back in time. Okay, let's assume that we're doing a house. This is my general rule of thumb, which then you fudge depending on how much data you got. Go back at least 9 months. Typically, I'll go back about a year. And I go back about 30 to 50% further in time than you think your oldest comp would be with your typical appraisal thinking, because you want to anchor the older part of the curve. You don't want to just start it right there. Plot a straight linear regression line, least squares is the most common one and pretty much totally accepted. We do show you how to do a 3rd order polynomial, because that allows the curve to go up, down, up, or up, down, up, down, up, down. And that helps your eyes see changes in the trend, whether you want to shorten or lengthen the data period or put a new linear trend line on that. Those are modeling decisions. Even though we're talking here about computer algorithms and AVM type of stuff, I make a big deal out of saying this is where your appraisal, knowledge, expertise, and judgment are very important. Right here is where you make a judgment call. But you're really well protected because the result is so clear compared to just the trust me method. So there's my teddy bear who still is nameless, but he loves you. So the steps: download the data frame, select the right data is the key to it. Data science is, it's said that data scientists spend 80% of their time getting the data right and 20% of their time doing the analytics. Those of us who are using R and are really into this data science approach practically don't make adjustments because the answer just literally falls out. We're able to see the market segment rather than seeing 3 comps or 6 comps. That's the visual stuff. Create the scatter plot, draw the trend line, and calculate the time adjustment behind that, dollars per day. Why a priority in price indexing? Well, it's fun to do. Once you've done this 5 or 10 times, I guarantee you, you'll love it. It provides a visual. The human eye, the human brain really responds to visual stuff. It's easy to learn, easy to apply. I know it seems hard right now because we're flying through it, but once you got it, it's easy to apply. I hate using the words create comps, but effectively you do. If you can go back further in time and your best comp happens to be next door and it's a model match, now you got a great comp. That's true for commercial as well as residential. And it helps and leads to depicting the market properly. And hopefully also it'll increase your sense of the ability to get with it when this modernization stuff comes down. I never liked the word modernization, but I've adapted it because that's what it's going to be. Modernizing appraisals work to data science methodologies. It has to come because that's where the technology is. It's a core part of this approach because it helps guide your judgment. It doesn't replace your judgment. It helps guide your judgment. It clarifies what is the ideal data set. It helps expand the useful data set. It's a calculated time adjustment. So there's the graph. I just want to step back a second. Did I mention that we have close to 1,000 people signed up today? Craig claims that's some kind of a record for appraisal thing. Appreciate it. But I noticed a number of my friends on here, and there's a number of you don't have your names up and others that I missed, but I want to recognize Dean Zanto, who I've done service work before, Brad on here, Bill King, I've done classes with him, Ron Stalser, a great supporter from Arizona, Lee Hills, who's on the National Appraisers Forum, I worked with him before, Ernie Durbin, welcome, and Vicki Keeler from up in Northern California. I'm sure there's some names I've missed, but I just want to mention that. So here, okay, let's go back. Here's what the graph looks like. Now this time, instead of the whole neighborhood, we've clearly reduced it to the competitive market segment. So our low sales about 73,000, high sales about 1 million. We got an outlier here. In the data science methodology, it's really important to look at outliers. It's kind of the opposite thinking of work with what you believe to be comps. Outliers are what save your butt. Who knows, your subject property may turn out to be more similar to this outlier than anything else, and you just saved a big problem. Getting the right data set, the competitive market segment, is the #1 job. Here's another one. In this case, it's almost a level market. You can call it level, or you can say it's $14 a day upward. You make a judgment call. Is $14 a day upward better or worse than 0? Let's have a big fight over that. I would contend that 14 is the number that I actually got. 0 is because I'm afraid of putting 14 up there. This number here, when you get the formula, it's got a big X through it. Ignore that. In my class, we talk about why this is totally irrelevant. I don't want to spend the 10 minutes right now explaining why this is totally irrelevant. Ignore it. Make it go away mentally. Focus on the coefficient on the X. X is the number of days. $14 is dollars per day. Gives you Y, which is the time adjustment. Adjustment is 14 times the number of days difference. So why stats, why graphs, why data science? Okay, data science. Let's look at what the word science is. You know, sometimes we've been a lot of talk about science. What is science? Very simply, it's a systematic study. That's all it is. By observation or by experiment. As appraisers, we don't get to do experiments. We can only make observations. But we have a systematic system. The traditional appraisal process is systematic system. It's science. It was designed for the way data was 30, 50, 70 years ago. But the science must be done by an expert in the scientific method and the field of study. That's you. You're a field-related expert. Data is a source of information. Data can be anything that's measured, counted, or put in sequence. The number of light bulbs in your room right now, you could probably guess, but it's never been important to you to know the number of light bulbs in the room you're in right now. If you were solving the problem, you need more light in your room, you'd probably count the number of light bulbs and what their wattage is and where you want to put them. Data doesn't become information until you ask a question. And you can turn data into information one of two ways, by sorting and by associating one with another. Graphs are so important to data science because they connect the computer to the brain. It allows us to use the computer to our advantage and yet still use the brain for what it's good at, which is generalizing, seeing outliers, seeing patterns in data. Provide a visual. Human beings are very visual. It helps us see the market rather than 3 or 4 or 5 comps. We're looking at markets. Science is your expert modeling decisions. We're trying to make you better decision makers, improving judgment, sharpening that judgment, rather than just saying, trust me. Basically, data science also encompasses statistics, computer algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence. We're not going to go into any of that here. Computer carries out algorithms. We can put data science into 3 words: computation, cognition, and competence. You provide the competence. The graphs provide the cognition, so your brain understands it. And the computer computes stuff almost infallibly. The history of appraisal is that it was really started out for this country in about the 1930s when data was really hard to get. When I became an appraiser, just scraping together 3 or 4 or 5 comps was big part of my job. Data science deals with the opposite problem. Today we're overwhelmed with data. In 3 seconds, you can get all 72 comps, all 72 net sales in your neighborhood. How do you deal with the overwhelm of data? When I became an appraiser, the best we had was the HP 12C. Actually, it was the HP 38C, which was the predecessor to that. Calculators were still new. We didn't have complete data sets, so we couldn't do price indexing. We couldn't focus on markets because we just didn't have the data. And we didn't have computer power or algorithms to get market-specific data. And building graphs was incredibly difficult. Even when I started teaching this class 15 years ago, building a histogram in Excel was almost impossible. So what best represents a time adjustment? Well, we already went through this. I'm going to go through this really quick. The point being is that your specific market is your best time adjustment, not national changes, not regional changes, not the neighborhood changes. If you get the wrong data, it's going to give you the wrong results. That's where you make big mistakes. Or if you want to cheat on an appraisal and hit the number, do you do it through adjustments or do you do it by carefully picking comps that you can get away with making them look similar, but they're really not? It'll help you hit the number. The wrong model will give you the wrong results. Here's another example. I'm trying to put 3 or 4 of these up here so you're visually acquainted with how different graphs can look at different times. The black line is the linear trend line. The red line is the second order polynomial, which allows a hump or a valley. And it's pretty much laying on top of the straight line. So that's confirming your decision that the straight line is probably a good time adjustment. It's fast and easy. It improves other adjustments. How does it do that? You got more data and they're more accurate and more precise. So it actually increases your useful data set. It connects old ways of thinking with the new ways of thinking that we have to face. And it requires and integrates market analysis with the actual adjustments. And it relates to each of the 5 steps, general steps of evidence-based valuation. And it's an underpinning to the fundamental principles of today's data science methods. So price index is visual, is deterministic. What I mean by that, once you've made your modeling decisions on this is the competitive market segment, the straight line is a good representative, it's math. There's no subjectivity left. That's the best answer you can possibly get. It's math, not statistics, not probability. That's it. You've made 2 modeling decisions. If your reviewer or auditor agrees with those 2 decisions, there's nothing else can be challenged. It helps clarify the competitive market segment. And it helps you hopefully have some confidence in the new methods that are coming down the pike. Okay, let's talk here briefly about setting up the download. I'm going to go as fast as I can so I can get to our break time and then turn it over to Craig. So this is, I'm going to try to deal with this. Should you be using close date or contract date? And I have actually written a paper on this and came up with the conclusion that it's not conclusive either way for your price indexing. I use close date. Why? Because here's a definition of market value that we are required for certain government, Fannie Freddie, FHFA stuff. It specifically says implicit in this definition of the consummation of a sale as of a specific date and passing of title from seller to buyer. So meeting of the minds in some ways is a better date to measure against, but our definition of market value specifically says, tells us it's got to be the contract date. So I just go with that. You can do it either way. I just wanted you to be aware that that's what the definition of market value we generally work with it says. So do your setup on your data provider interface. I'm going to show you a quick example of that. Then after the break, Craig is going to go through it slower and in more detail. Number 1, when you open up your MLS or CoStar or any data set, there's going to be some kind of a download parameters screen. It's set up for brokers, not for appraisers. If you haven't already done that, you can set up a new template that's better for you. And you've probably already done that. So that's one template that you want to set up. The second template you want to set up is how to put the fields that you're going to be most using to the left. And typically appraisers, we only use 20 or 30 fields that matter to us. You want them in a logical order. You want to have them good, consistent names that you can use over and over again. So once you push that download button, you can use that for the rest of your career and not have to fiddle with the download templates. So you're going to be setting up the field sequences. I'll show you an example of that in just a second. There's 2 options. If you really want to do just price indexing, just download the 2 fields, date of sale and the sale price. I suggest you just go ahead and at a minimum download the 20 or 30 fields you have. Once you've done this a few times, you're going to start wanting to do more, and it's good to have the fields convenient for you. So step number 1, your search fields. This is how I've set mine up. The search fields is very different from what's set up for the brokers, the default. Some programmers sometime in the past was listening to a couple of salespeople and they set it up. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, customize the fields. To do that, You push the button, says customize, and Craig will do this again in a different MLS than what I'm doing here, but this is very quickly. I want you to just have an overview of this. So you're going to customize the fields. Over here to the left are going to be all 250 or whatever number of fields that actually exist on your MLS or CoStar. And over here on the right, you can hit this add button. That'll move, let's say, if you want to put advertising remarks over into what you download every time, you just click on that, and it'll go over here. This is everything. This is what you want. And then you can move them up or down depending on how you want the sequence of your fields. Craig will go into this deeper in half an hour. But when you're done organizing the fields, give it a new name. So my MLS default says property system grid. I renamed mine Dell example. And folks, I've got stuff that I plugged in 20 years ago. My San Diego MLS has gone through 2 different providers. And my templates are still there that have survived those changes. And export to a to spreadsheet. Everybody downloads to Microsoft Excel now. It just kind of, yeah. In fact, Microsoft is, the CSV is comma separated valuation. Microsoft actually does not own that, but Excel is Microsoft. So you click on that button, export. And you want to plug in your template that you want. You do this once in your career, basically. It'll take you 2, 3, 4 hours, but you do it once. Click on export. And, oh, okay, I know what I did here. Okay, I'm going to go over to, bear with me again. I'm going to go over to another Excel file. This one. Oh, very good. Okay. The way if you don't set up a template, when you do the download, let's say you're going to download all the fields. Actually, in my other classes, I advocate you download everything. The cost of memory is 0 practically. This is terrible, and sometimes they're alphabetical, sometimes they're not. You want to change this around so it's in a reasonable, a sensible way. I recommend we put it into the 5 dimensions. I love using the colors because it's just so much easier to see. I put the identifiers to the far left, which would be the property address, the parcel number, anything else on that, the status. So I know for sure that I got the SFRs, that I truly have all the cells instead of just some listings mixed in there. Transaction elements, having to do with a contract, time. One thing that's important here is make sure you have the date of the sale and the price of the sale right next to each other, because then you can always just grab it like that and go to insert and click on the chart, do the scatter plot, and there's your scatter plot that quick. And you can look at your markets that you've selected that quick. I'm going to get rid of that. So that's your time and price of sale. I put land issues next, all the other features, living area, year built, garage spaces, everything else. And over here, everything else. I recommend just don't throw away anything. It's part of your work file. It's electronic. You're completely protected on all the data you got. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back. That's the wrong one. Bear with me. Okay, there we are. Okay, so you've exported, there it is. You can plug it into a scatter plot just like that. This one was done in Numeric, the open source software. And I'm not going to talk any more about that. Again, here I've got enough data. I just went back 9 months. I've got 16 sales. That's enough. Looks like the linear trend line looks pretty good to me. And behind that is a formula. And that's what I use for my time adjustment. The predictor variable is time on the x-axis. The predicted variable is y on the y-axis. I want to assure you that the use of the word prediction is correct. In the appraisal of real estate, it says specifically, the appraisal process is substantially predictive in nature. So it's in there. This is not a new word. It's just we don't hear it very much. Okay, we're doing great on time for a change. Okay, bear with me. Let me take a look and see where I am here. Oh yeah, okay, Craig's up next. So we're actually perfect on time, incredibly. I'm gonna do one more example here with the Mission Hills data set. Okay, I got a clean sheet here. I'm gonna go get a data set.
You don't have the clear sheet on. You have the.
I'm searching for data now.
Okay.
So I'm going to go File, Open. I'm going to browse and go to Student Files and get data set. Excel here. Go to Mission Hill. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Oh well, that's good enough. Not the data set I wanted to use, but good enough. Okay, here's here's a pretty big data set, huh? How many we got here? 100.
You have a blank sheet.
Got a blank sheet. Okay.
It's up.
Okay, now we got it. All right. Thank you. All right. So this is a lot of sales. We've got 125 sales here. Notice that I've not thrown away any of the data. So this is the whole neighborhood for however long it is. But notice that I have the close of escrow date and the sold price right next to each other. I can just grab these two fields, do Control-Shift down arrow. That goes down to the bottom. Let me fix that problem. And from there, I can do an insert, the graph, scatter plot. There it is. Now this is the whole neighborhood, not the competitive market segment. I want to add a trend line to that. You always start with a linear. And you can see it there. I'm going to do more options and display the equation, which is there. And right away, I would like to go ahead and add the third order polynomial. So it'll be a trend line, linear explanation, more options. Where did it go? Okay.
To the right of the screen, or on the right side.
Where did my menu go, Craig?
You go up to the very top. There's Format Trend Line up there. Yeah. And Trend Line Options right there. Up.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, that's not what I want to do. Rather than waste time here, we're gonna take a break here in just a couple of minutes. Let me try this one more time. I'm gonna be stubborn here. I'm gonna click up here, trend line, and I want to do a polynomial. I want to do a third order polynomials objective. So more options. I don't get it.
Try those 3 bars. Up, right hand.
Okay, you know what? I'm ahead of the game. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this in numeric. No, I'm not. Have it up. Let's see here.
You can do a right click on the trend line. Or if you go to the trend line and right click on it, you can change it.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Form.
Format trend line?
Yes.
Ah, okay, thank you. Okay, so there's my choices. You can do, you got exponential, linear, logarithmic, the only 2 we use is linear and polynomial. So I'm going to click on polynomial. I want a 3rd order polynomial because a 2nd order polynomial allows a hump or a valley. 3rd order polynomial like this allows it to go down, or up, down, up, which helps your eyes see what's going on.
And you have a display equation box there too.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, no, it won't work.
I don't want to do that in this case. And we could make it a different color, but you get the idea. There's your 3rd order polynomial. And I like to leave the linear on there and a 3rd order polynomial. What's causing this curve to go up here? Remember, this is the neighborhood, not the competitive market segment. We've got these 2 guys here that pulling that curve up severely here. This one here pulls the whole curve up, but doesn't change the slope much. These are critical to us. Back here, we don't care too much about because that's beyond where our oldest comp would be. We only go back, remember, 30 to 50% further back in time than we think our oldest comp, traditional comp, would be. It's just there to anchor. So that's it. Let's take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, Craig will do 20 to 30 minutes. Then whatever time he left. All right, let's get started here. Do one more. Let me introduce my friend Craig Gilbert. We've known each other for a long time. How that goes. So I've got, and he's always been kind of in the back of my mind, but we've definitely become better friends. I had no idea he had a philosophy of life that's similar to mine, which is real simple. Givers gain, takers lose. You give it out, and first of all, you get immediate satisfaction from knowing you're okay and clean inside, and it always comes back to you in better ways, undreamt of ways in the future. So that's a simple spiritual principle for me, and thanks, Brad. Craig has been around for a long time, has more knowledge of facts and data and people and the profession than almost anybody I know, particularly on the residential side. So I will turn it over to Craig here. And Craig, take as long as you want. For a change, I'm on time.
Okay, so I'll go real quickly on my background. Some of you know me, some do not. I'm a certified general appraiser in California and Arizona. I'm a licensed real estate broker, designated with the Appraisal Institute since 1980, also ASA and the WERC, which is a relocation group. I've got the CRP, which I've had since about 1992. I started in 1975. I was a senior in college. I got hired as a trainee at a savings and loan, and I graduated and they hired me full time. So I didn't even have to go look for a job. I've been chief appraiser at 3 financial institutions. I got out of the banking business in 1984 due to fraud that was coming from our board of directors. Turned them in and then they got shut down. Been an independent appraiser since 1984. My current practice includes virtually no mortgage work. I'm doing litigation, support, expert witness, testimony, relocation, and other complex residential. I do industrial, commercial, land, subdivisions, partial interest, fee simple, leasehold, and so forth. Co-founded RAC in 1990. I see Ernie Durbin's on. That's relocation appraisers and consultants. If you're doing complex properties, I suggest you look into rac.net. And back in 1999, I got a phone call from a scientist asked me, can you help me develop a program where we can type in a value, type in an address and get a value? I told him that's not possible. And then I eventually decided to do it. I got on board, and that's Veros today. My first call way back was George Dell. And at the time, what's interesting relative to what we're teaching today is you have to get a time series correct and accurate and go from there. And it applies to what we're doing here on the valuations. So that's kind of it on a quick background. Today, I'm going to be talking about matrix Excel, or I'm sorry, exporting matrix MLS into Excel. That's one I have in Southern California. It's CoreLogic's program now, or their software. One George is using, I think, is Paragon. I have Paragon available. I don't like it. There's other programs available, Flex and so forth. So what I'm going to be going over with Matrix is pretty much similar to what you'll be doing with whatever MLS you use. I'm going to go step by step here on Matrix. For some of you that do this every day, this is old hat. You'll wonder why I'm going so slow, but I'm presenting this mainly for those that maybe haven't done it before, or maybe even those that are familiar with it might pick something up. I'm doing a live demonstration, by the way. I decided not to do a PowerPoint. PowerPoint would be easier, but then it's not live. So I'm actually logged in right now to my MLS screen. I'm assuming you can see it, correct, Cindy? You can see my MLS screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that's
Yes.
live. I'm connected right now. You can all see it. I can make it a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. Hopefully that's good for everybody. I'm going to go through the keystrokes that I use to do this. So in Excel, watch my cursor. You want to go up right here to the right-hand corner. You see where it says, hello, Craig. It's going to have your name if it's Matrix. If you're using something else, you'll have to talk to tech support. The reason I mention this is if you're not used to doing this, this does not seem to be a good place to start. It seems like you should be starting over here somewhere. But it's hello, Craig. Okay, there we go. Click it, then I'm going to click settings. And what I'm going to show you here is how to set up templates for exporting data. You see all these options here. I'm going to go down here to custom exports where the cursor is. I have 16 that I use regularly. Depending on what I'm doing, I might have one for apartment buildings, maybe for rentals and so forth. So we're going to click custom exports. Over on the left side here, you see manage custom exports. These are the ones, these are some that I've set up already. I'm going to show you how to do one if you've never done one before. So you're going to go over here to the right side and we're going to click. You can also, by the way, copy and export and then change it. But I'm just going to start from zero as if we've never done one before. So I'm going to click add export. So the first order of business is to give it a name. So I'm up here at the very top, export name. Let's call this Dell Gilbert export. Like, and even went underline when I spelled it wrong. Okay, now the next order of business is we have to select the fields over here on the left. We can select them all. If I click at the very top here, hold down my shift key, come all the way down, click it, I've got them all. And I can add them all by hitting add. That puts them all over to the export fields on the right side there. George had said to export all of them or as many as possible. You actually want to select the ones that you need. And it might be 20 or 30 fields. You don't need all 100 plus fields. I'm going to take those out for now. And I'm going to start over. So the fields, the two fields you have to have for what we're doing, for for your X and Y, your independent and dependent variables, X and Y, are going to be market change, data sale and sell price. So you could search through all of these, moving it down and looking and looking and looking, or you can go down to search. Right down here, you see where I am? Search. And if you type in the word price, you get close price, current price, and so forth. But I could select one at a time here, and I could pick out price. But what I really want to do is I want to get two at a time if I can here. So I'm going to type in the word close instead. So we have close date and close price, these top two left. Those we have to have as a minimum for what we're doing. So I can either select one at a time and add it, one at a time and add it. I'm going to take them both out for a second. Or you can hit close date, hold down your shift key, down arrow, down arrow, I selected them both, add. The other thing that's important, because we're looking for X and Y, is the order they're in. These just happen to be in exactly the correct order, which is date and price. If I wanted to, if they were out of order, I could change it with this up arrow. So I took it out of order. We want it reversed, so I'm going to go back and put that down. So we have close date, close price. Those are the two we have to have for doing our time series. And for this example, I'm only going to do those two. You might, with the ones you're doing, you want to include the property address and some other information, maybe the square footage, price per square foot, and so forth. But we're just doing this example to show how to compute change in price over time. Next order of business, while you're here, is go down here below, and you have a couple other options. Include column names, none, label, or name. You can either pick label or name. I pick name. That'd be your column name. And then the other one that's real critical is separator down here at the bottom. The default is comma. Your other option is tab. It's a tab delimited, and that's a CSV, the comma delimited. That is what works in Excel. For other software, you'd want to use tab. But for what we're doing, we're exporting to Excel. So I've got the date, the price in my export fields. I've got a name, Dell Gilbert export. I've got these fields down here selected. I hit save. So I now have that down there. You see at the very bottom, it's been saved as Dell Gilbert export. Okay, my next order of business is I need to export some data. So I'm going up here to recent searches. I've already saved a search, or I've already done a search. So I'm going to click that up in the right-hand corner here, recent searches. And I've got one here that I've already done. Okay. Before I go through this data here, I'm going to go over to the criteria. I'm going to click my criteria. This is as though I'm starting from scratch. George had been talking earlier about neighborhood, competitive market segment, and so forth. If you can get the data really tight in terms of comparability to your subject, you eliminate the outliers, you eliminate the properties that you really don't want to measure. So I happen to select an area that I have not appraised in for probably 20, 30 years out in Riverside County, California. It's about 60 miles from my office. I selected it because I knew it was pretty conforming and had a lot of data. Over here to the right side, I picked bedrooms 3 to 4. I picked number of baths 2, 1,200 to 1,600 square feet living area, 5 to 8,000 square feet lot size. Over here on the left here was Riverside County. Right below that is Moreno Valley. I actually went back 2 years, and then we normally don't go back that far, but I went back 2 years on this one. Single family residence. We're going to move on down. I wanted standard listings. I'm leaving out notice as a default REOs and HUD. Again, if I was in a market where everything was real estate owned and notice a default and short sales, I'd use those, but we're not, and I want to exclude them if there are any. Moving on down here, and by the way, for those of you who haven't done it, in Matrix, you can add all these fields down here. I've added a whole bunch of fields, and I use them all occasionally. You do it with additional fields, add, remove. So anyway, I've got my year built that's real tight, 1975, 1975 to 1985. I've got 1 story only. I'm excluding anything 2 stories and up. I'm only picking homes with 2-car garage. So you kind of see what I'm picking are probably almost comparables for a property that is in between the range I have here. And that was about all I selected there. So over to the left here at the bottom, you can see I have 154 results. I'm going to just click the map for a second. So there's my map. These are the properties that I'm using. I could refine it more by using one of these up here. Yeah, I could refine it maybe if I want to just pick this area here. But even though some of these are north of the freeway, the 60, I'm not concerned for what we're doing. So anybody that knows Moreno Valley, don't criticize me for that. Okay, so going back to results. These are all the data, the 154 right here. You're going to be selecting these to export to Excel. Couple things. If you just go to the very top left here and click this button, you're only getting however many are showing on the page. So right now I have 25. If I change it to 100 or 50, I'm only getting 50. I want 154. So instead, don't click this. Click the word all. When I click all, it tells me that I checked 154. So these are just some little things that are easy to forget. If you've only got 50 sales, then clicking up here at the top would work. But if you go over the number of what you're displaying, which is this number here, you're just not going to get them all. So that's it in a nutshell on the data. So I picked really comparable properties to the subject. So the only real big difference is going to be time. Yeah, there's a little bit of square footage and so forth, but we can deal with that. So now I go down here to the bottom. I've selected them all the data. I click export. Now I'm going to select which of those 16 templates I'm going to use. Remember, we just made a new one. It's in here. So, oh, there it is. This is the one we just made. Dell, Gilbert, export. So once you select it, you're going to go up to the export right here. Now down at the very bottom here is the export. So I'm going to select that. And my Excel is opening up. So now I've got to make sure, can anybody see that?
No, we can't see Excel.
Okay, so let me do a new share. And where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Cindy. So here's my 2 columns of data. Remember we talked about the X and Y? Oops, I'm just widening these out a little bit. So remember the order. A is X, B is Y, your dependent, independent variables. George had another term for it, for those, but they're the same. So now what I'm going to do is I want to export these and develop a chart. So the way I select all of these is I start at the top left, close date, hold down my shift key, hit my right arrow. With my left thumb, I hold down my control key. Then I hit my down arrow. Boom. By doing that, I've got all 154. It's not 155 because the first line is the labels. But I got them all without having to move the cursor up and down and so forth. So our next order of business now is that I've exported, now that I've selected those. I like to put them in order. It's probably an ADD thing. I'm going to go up here to home. I'm going to come over to sort and filter. And I'm going to go from oldest to newest. So if you watch over here to the left, everything's going to change. Oldest to newest, boom. So now I got the oldest one, basically 2 years old, and then the newest one, down here at the bottom. I'm going to remark these again. Shift, right arrow, control, down arrow. Got them all selected. So now what we're going to do is export these into Excel. I'm sorry. We're going to develop a chart. We're already in Excel. Coming over here to charts. I'm going to select this little arrow right here. They have a recommended chart here. I got a couple of options. If you're starting from scratch, you'd be doing this. So I'll go ahead and do this. Before I do this, let me show you all charts. I've got a couple templates here. So if I actually selected them right now, these are what you would see. But I'm going to go back to the chart as though you're doing it. So go down here and hit OK. And you're kind of seeing what George had earlier with his chart. The thing is, and you can see there's not a lot of outliers here. And you can kind of see over time, let me make this a little bigger. You can see over time, there's an upward trend here. This goes back to from 2019 over here to 2021. So I can either right click in these data points to add a trend line, or I can do it up here with the plus. So I'll click add a trend line here. And this is familiar with what George was showing earlier. You see linear, exponential, and so forth. We're going to go linear, which is already there. Then we're going to come down and display the equation down here at the bottom. You see where I click it? And the equation comes up here. I'm going to move it down. So there's the equation. That's your daily price change right there. Let me make that a little bit bigger. And by the way, once you start doing this, if you haven't done it before, everything I'm showing, it could take you a minute or two. I'm just going real slow here. Okay, so I'm going to make those bigger, the fonts. Actually, I'm just going to change the font type. I'm going to go Arial Black, and let's go up to a 16. Again, and you can save all this as a template, and you won't have to do all this again. And next time you pull it up, your y-intercept will show here, and your graph will be there. Next order of business, I don't like the way that line looks because you really can't see it. So if you go right to the line and you can do a right click on that and do format trend line. I'm going to click that little, I clicked that little paint thing there. First, I'm going to change the size down here on width. And you can either type in a number or just click it, but you kind of see it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger as I click. I went up to a 5. I don't like the color, so I'm going to change. Oh, I don't like the type of line, so I'm going to click the dash and make it a solid line. And I don't like the color, blue or whatever it is. I'm going to make it black. So it just helps with the eye. You have a client that's going to be looking at this, or you're looking at it. It's an obvious upward trend. So what we have here is the Y, which is your price trend. It's going up $121 a day for 2 years. So if you had a sale for, let's say there weren't all these sales in here, but you have a sale from 2 years ago, you could apply $121 a day as a time adjustment to bring it current to what it would be worth today. And there's other things you can do with these X and Y axis over here. You can change the type of date. Like if you don't like this type of date format, just right click on it. And let's see, where is that? Yeah, I'm not going to waste time on it. But anyway, you can change that, and I'll show you what I've changed mine to. So anyway, that is starting from scratch. We have $121 a day. I'm just going to show you one other thing here. We're going to mark them all again, and I'm going to go ahead and export them. Hit insert, hit charts, and I'll just pick one. I have all charts, and I'm just going to pick one of my templates. There's my template, and you'll see it's exactly the same as the one we created from scratch. the $121 a day. Oh, by the way, the R factor, the R squared, ignore that. I actually have this particular template developed for something else. So you would not use an R squared as George has explained. So I've eliminated that. Now, I'm going to show you. So we have $121 a day. Let me move that. I'm actually going to just cut it, move it up. Control V, Control Victor, paste. That's how you paste it. So I cut it and I pasted it. Now what I'm going to show you is, how about if we go back a year? What I'm going to show you is to change. This shows you how to measure changing differences or price changes, where the rate of change is changing. So I'm going to go back 1 year, which would take me back, say, December. Okay, I'll go back 630, 629. So shift, right arrow, control, down arrow. I got 1 year's worth of data, insert. I'm going to go ahead and hit all charts. And I'm going to pick this chart because it doesn't have the R squared on it. So now notice I'm actually going to cut it and I'm going to move it up. There's different ways of doing what I'm doing. I'm just kind of floundering here. Oops. Control V. There it is. Control Victor will pin it there. I'm just kind of changing the shape of it. So anyway, notice up here, I'll move this up, $121 a day, but in the last year, it's going up at $228 a day. So we have a new price trend. It's increasing, the rate of increase is increasing, I guess is one way to put it. So we went from 121 in 2 years to 228 in 1 year. Now let's see what happens in 6 months. So 6 months would be basically the end of December. So I'm shift, right arrow, control, down arrow, insert, chart, all charts, because that's where your templates are. I'm going to pick this one again. Oops, let me move that up. Yeah, I'm just going to cut it, paste it, cut, move it up. Control V. So now we have a slowdown. Even though the market's going up, this data is now showing us it was going up at 121 for 2 years, 228 for 1 year, 152 for 6 months. So you can, by the way, you can also set up templates to do all of these at once. I'm just doing them one at a time. And let's go back 3 months. What would that be? March, April, May, March. Again, shift, right arrow, control, down arrow. Oops. Control, down arrow. You got them all. Insert. Pick the chart. Now we got 190. So we got kind of a fluctuating market. The reason these are important is it depends on what the dates of sale are of the comps you're using. If all your comps are within the last 3 months, this $190 a day would be the one to use. If you have comps older, you got to go back. Then here's one to use. You have to decide. It's a decision the appraiser has to make. But it shows that the prices don't go up at a straight line at the same rate over different periods of time. So that's kind of what we showed here. You can go in and add a title, for example, on this one. You just click it and type in, let's say, price trend. And you can see up above where it is, hit enter, boom, I got price trend. You can also add labels to your X and Y. I'm not going to do that right now. You can go in and figure that out. And even without a label, you kind of got an idea. There's your price. There's your dates. You'll notice on my dates that I have here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm using a different format for dates here. I like this better than than this very first one we did. Let's see. Oh, that. So I don't like this format. It's just too busy for me. So you come back down again. I like this format here. So you're just going to right click on the dates and then change the format. But I won't go through that right now. It'd be too time consuming. I'm going to run out of time. Okay. Bear with me for a second. Okay. So you can, by the way, you can copy these and put these into your report. So I'm going to open up another program here. Actually, I got to hit my share screen, new share, and see that screen. You can see that? Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Okay. I'm going to try to put these kind of side by side. All right. So anyway, this isn't a, can you still see it?
We can see part, it
Okay.
cut
Yeah.
the forms in half,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Let me just make it a little bit smaller. All right. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller here. So what you would do, what this is here is an appraisal form. These are just photo pages. This is Bradford. And by the way, Bill King is on. He's chief appraiser at Bradford. And every month he does a really nice webinar that I suggest you look into. So anyway, I use the photo pages. It's real easy to add exhibits. So I'm going to come over here to my price trend. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to do copy. I could also do a Control C to copy. I'm now going to my appraisal page. Going to do a Control V, Control Victor. That's a paste. Let me make it bigger. So
Yeah, we can't see that.
you can't see it.
No,
Okay.
we can only see the partial click forms. We can't see anything else. It's like,
Okay.
there you
Can
go.
you see it? Click forms.
I can see the click forms.
Okay. Everybody can see it? Good. Sorry about that. Trying to combine everything live. So you could do this for each of those charts. You could copy and paste them all over. This one I said 6 months. Yeah, this actually is 6 months. So you could actually have them all pre-labeled. Let me go up here. You could take that one that was 2 years and paste it in here. The 1 year, paste it in here. The 6 months, paste it here, and the 3 months. So in your appraisal form, you would actually have these forms already set up. There are other programs, third-party programs you can buy, Data Master, and what's the other? Spark. Those are some that do a lot of this automatically for you. What I'm doing is very rudimentary, but at least it teaches you what to do, how to do it, how to make the changes. You know, you can change the color of your, and the size, as you can see, of your, of anything. I could even change the color of the dots. There's multiple options. And then what you do is I showed how to save the template for Excel export. You can also save the template for the chart.
You moved everything off the screen.
Yeah, I moved everything off. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do a new share and I'm gonna open up screen one. Do you see it? Do you see?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks, Cindy. Appreciate the help. You're making me look smart. Actually not.
You're awesome.
So you can save this now. I can do a right click. You're gonna go down to save as template and then give it a name. So you can call it, let's say, regression time. You can, oops, sorry, Tim. So I saved it as regression time. So let's do a real quick one here before I run out of time. I just pick something here, boom. So remember, shift, right, arrow, control, down arrow, selected them all. Go to insert, go to charts, go to all charts, because I just made a new one. And the new one, this one today, oh, this is the new one, regression time, right? Double click it, there it is. So first I showed how to make a chart, how to develop it, and now to save it. So you would not have to do this again. If you saved it just the way I'm showing it, every time you export copy or export in, it's going to always be the same. You're actually not going to want to have that. You're going to have a chart title in it, and then you're going to probably want to have labels for your columns, but you don't have to, for your price and time. You can also do things like on the price over here, you can put dollar signs, you can add commas, you can change the size. I mean, there's all kinds of options. But once you do all that, you save it as a template, you don't have to do it again. So I took a whole lot of time going through how to set one up. And again, I apologize for the guys who do this every day, but I'm hoping for those of you who haven't done these, this is somewhat helpful, or at least get you going as to how the process works. You can also, oh, by the way, we're going to run out of time, so I won't do it. You can also do exactly what I did, but up here on the close date and on the close price, instead of exporting the price, you can export price per square foot. Or I could export them all. I could have another column, price per square foot, and then I would just click date and price per square foot, export or insert into a chart, and then I would have a change in price per square foot over time. Do I have time to do that, George, or should we move on?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's see. I got to get back to my MLS. Let's go back to MLS. MLS. Where is it? Data master. Matrix. Is that it? Okay.
We're not, there we go. Okay, perfect. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to results. And actually, let me set up another export. Hello, Craig. Let's do another export, custom export. So let's do, we're going to name a new one, actually. Copy, add export. Got to add export. Let's just call it price trend per square foot. Price trend per square foot. Now, so we're going to want to get close. What am I going to want? I want close price. Actually, no. I'm going to want close date. And then let me find square foot. Living price per square foot, price per square foot. So I typed in the word price per square foot came up. I'm going to hit add. And we have to have our X and Y. They're in the right order. X. Actually, no, they're in the wrong order. Boom. Price per foot, estimated close date. I'm going to put a name. Yes. And I want comma. I hit save. Okay, we're done. So I'm going to now go back to my recent search. There's my data. Can you see that? You still see it?
It's running slow. Okay.
It's running slow. Okay.
Yep.
Tell me when you see the data.
Yep. Now we see the data.
You see the data. Okay. You're going to hit all, select all, right? Come down to export down here at the bottom. Now we got to click the format. We just made it. And what did I call it? Price trend per square foot was, yeah, I think that's one I just did. So we just made it on the fly.
Yes.
We're going to do export. I go down here to the bottom left. I select it. There it is. Whoops. Wait a second.
Yeah, we don't see the X.
I got a
We
problem.
don't see.
I know. I got a problem. I got to go back to. I'm not going to save this. I got to go back. I made a mistake.
Oh no.
Yeah. Hello, Craig. Remember, hello, Craig. Settings, custom exports. I screwed up.
I did that last year once.
Yeah, I remember. Let's see. GLA. Actually, I already have one that I've done, so I'm just going to pick it. Done. Okay, so I'm going to use that one. Okay. Go back to my recent search. You can see the MLS data.
It's thinking.
It's thinking. Okay. Tell me when you see it.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry, it's so slow. It's not my computer. It's Zoom. I don't know what it is. Okay. So I'm going to export one that I've already actually done. I think that one. Here's what the problem was. On the one I did, I had an estimated closing date, not the real closing date. And that's why only one column exported. I selected the wrong one, but at least I figured it out. Okay, so let's try it again. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Oh, no.
So we don't
No,
see
I-
we don't
no,
see the
you-
Excel. We don't see the
No,
Excel.
you don't want to see it. I messed up again. It wasn't good. Let me go back to the one we made. Gilbert, Dell Gilbert. Oh, wait, price trend PSF. I'm going to edit it. See estimated. Oh, wait, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, see where I put estimated close date? Wrong. So I have to remove it and replace it. So let me put close again. I want close date, not estimated close date. And by the way, for those of you that I'm a broker, as brokers put these in and put an estimated close date, if they don't report the sale on the, by the estimated close date, and they're still in escrow the day after, it reports as a sale. The agent was supposed to have changed it before that date. So just I'm very active on the MLS, so that's how I know. So now I want close date. Now we're going to save this one. Price trend PSF. Okay, we're done. So now we're going to go back to the recent search. Bear with me. Do you see it? The data. These are the sales.
It's thinking.
It's
thinking.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Sorry about
We got
that. Some kind of latency program. Export. Now I'm going to select. What was the one? I got to think of the name of the one I just did. PSF.
Price trend. Price per square foot. PSF.
I got so many here now. Trend.
Is it the one you just made? The one
What
next
did I just call it? What did I just call it? Did I call it
I
trend per
think
square foot?
I don't remember now.
Well,
There's too much has gone
Come on,
past.
come on, George. Gotta help.
This isn't George.
I know, I know. He's watching. He's going, I'm glad it's not me. Okay, it worked. Okay.
Okay,
So
now we need you to change the screen.
now got to go to new share and I got to show Excel. Come on. I think it's it. You see it?
Not yet. Not yet. There we go.
Okay. Wow. I think it's a Zoom problem. So again, you see now instead of price, we have price per foot. So shift, right arrow, control, down arrow. And by the way, even though this isn't open up above, you can have it open all the time. I usually do for this example and have it closed on purpose. Hit home, sort and filter. I always like to sort by date, oldest to newest. So we got from our 2 years back to present. So next order of business, control, right arrow, I'm sorry, shift, oops. Shift, right arrow, control, down arrow, select, oops, got too many columns. Sorry, folks.
Relax. You're okay. Breathe.
Shift, right arrow, control, down arrow. Okay, we got two columns selected. Insert, charts. I can do all charts. I'll just do all charts and okay. There you go. I can hit the plus up here and do a trend line with other options. I want linear, more options, display equation. I'm going to grab that equation and move it down, make this all a little bit bigger. This one's kind of interesting. I'm going to make the equation bigger. I'm going to make it Arial black and make it 20, really big, 20. Enter. Boom. So I'm not going to change the line up here like I did before, changing it to black and so forth and making it bigger. You already know how to do that. You're going to right click on it, more options. But now you see 0.088. That is 8.8 cents per square foot per day. It's going up 8.8 cents per day. Oh, wait, we have a hand up, Gary. Gary's got his hand up. Do you see it? You don't see it? And does it?
No,
Do you see that, Cindy?
It's there. It's there.
That's there. Okay. So that's if you want to do per square foot. Then you're going to be multiplying that times your subject square footage for your daily. So if you're 1,500 square feet times 0.088, now you have a daily change based on per square foot. This is very useful, especially when maybe smaller homes are selling, but the prices look like they're staying level. So the price per square foot is sometimes a little bit more helpful. You can actually, what I'm not going to go over because it's too complicated, you can have multiple graphs together. You can have the price per foot, you can have the price, you can have other stuff on there, and it can be very helpful. So I just wanted to show this. I wasn't planning on doing it, but I figured for those of you that might have I think someone did have a question on per square foot, how to do it. That's how you do it. You export your date, your price per foot. If for some reason your MLS doesn't give price per foot, that's real easy to fix. You just export price and square footage. One more column, you just compute instantly price per foot. But I think most MLS is already included. And there's other things you can do when there's nulls, like zeros and so forth. George had mentioned earlier, 80% of data science is getting the data right. It's taking and maybe taking out the bad data. If I were looking through this and all of a sudden saw one at $1,000 a square foot, and the agent probably put the square footage in at 30 square feet or 300 square feet. So then it's useless. At least that part is useless. You got to fix it or take it out. Trying to think, was anything else?
We have people asking how to turn it into a percent.
Oh, that's George. George is gonna discuss that. I will just go on
Rapidly running out of time here.
Yeah, we're running out of time. And actually George covers that also in his 2-day course. We're trying to squeeze almost like 2 days into 2 hours. So I think I'm going to just go ahead and wind up. I think I got it pretty well covered. How to set up a template in Excel, how to name it, the nomenclature, that you got to have a comma, even though within Matrix that is the default. You just got to make sure they're all set. Once you save it, and as George was saying, you can spend hours setting everything up, and then once you do it, you're kind of done forever, unless you want to start making little minor changes, changing font sizes and the way things look, or maybe doing multiple graphs at the same time. I'm just making it simple here with one at a time. I think I've got it pretty well covered. The only other thing I'll mention again is reiteration that you got to start on your hello and your name. It is not intuitive. If you ever forget, by the way, tech support, whether you have Matrix or you got Flex and the others, You can call tech support. They'll walk you through it for wherever you are, anywhere USA. And it's going to be pretty much the same as what I've done here. I did put up my email earlier. George has his. You can contact any of us at any time. We'll be glad to help out. I'm going to go ahead and sign off and turn it back to George. And there may be questions too.
All right, thank you. We will stick around afterwards. Well, thank you very much, Craig.
It's up.
I want to go through just a handful of slides here. The most important one is let you know once again about the class we've got coming up. It is online. We've been very successful. We've done it 3 times. It's sold out every time. We do have a number of seats left yet. It's 3 weeks from now, $295. The weekly blog, which you're already signed up for, has a lot of information about price indexing and a lot of other topics. And the asset analyst report is a couple $100 a year. Actually, if you combine the two, if you get the asset analyst report, you can have the class for half price. So it's like you're getting both of them for an extra $50. So it's not a bad deal. So it's a severe discount for both of them together. You can just go to my website. And Cindy, are you going to give them the discount code for the class? Or they already have that? We already have that? Well, we'll get Cindy to bring that up before we're done. Okay, I want to do, let's see. I would like to do one more thing in numeric. Just one more. Okay. All right. This is a numeric, which is the spreadsheet software used in my class. It's equivalent to Excel. The reason we use it in class is when I first started teaching this class about 15 years ago, we were having so much trouble with different versions of Excel, different operating systems. We were wasting about 20% of the time. So by getting everybody on the same software, when I say push button B, everybody gets the same result. My classes are hands-on, so you have to have a laptop or computer, and we give you the software, so it's free. This is a Linda Vista, just a particular data. I just want to do another quickie for you here. So the sold price, close of escrow, if I grab those 2 columns and I do Control Shift down arrow, just like Craig did, grabs those columns and stops at the first empty spot here. In numeric, you got this thing up here, looks like a bookcase. It says insert a chart. So I'm going to click on that. And it comes up immediately. I can click on insert and put it in here like this. If I want to put the trend line in there, in numeric, it's really convenient. You double left click anywhere in the graph, double left click. This comes up. I want the trend line on sold price. Click on add. Trend line. Linear. And there it is. And then I want to add the formula. I click on that. Click on the equation. Get rid of the R squared. Come to my class if you want to know why you get rid of R squared. It has absolutely nothing to do with time series analysis. So it shows up there. It's kind of small. I'll get it out of the way here and make the font bigger right there. Make the font about a 22, apply it, and there's your time adjustment, $14 a day plus. If I want to do a third order polynomial on here, again, a numeric, double left click anywhere in the graph. I want the third order trend line on sold price, so I'm going to activate that. Add. Trend line. Polynomial. Want a third order polynomial. Apply it, and there it is. In this case, a third order polynomial looks like a second order. That's just circumstance. It looks to me like that the polynomial is confirming to me that the linear is pretty darn good. In fact, I've almost got my 3 comps picked out for me, don't I? I probably make phone calls on those right there. And just so you know, you can make this stuff much prettier. It's not that hard. You can label it. do indexes, pretty colors. I like green and yellow. So that's it on that. I'm going to do a few more slides, and that'll be the end of the class. I hoped that we could have some time to do R. I may do just a very brief amount of that. New share. Okay, good. We got it.
Hey, George or Cindy,
Yes,
when we get to
Yes.
the end, I'd like to make a mention of continuing education, if you can remind me.
Go ahead. Go ahead and do it now.
Okay, real quick. Well, so even though this isn't formally approved for continuing education, right? You can, if
Correct.
you're an Appraisal Institute member, you can go into your under the appraisal website, the AI website, and you can add the class in. You can add the 2 hours for this class today. For your state, many states will allow you to do a petition. So you could do a petition and send it into your state and maybe get your 2 hours. So I just wanted to throw that out for anybody looking for hours, either with the Institute or with your state. That's it.
Okay, very quickly. I got about 4 or 5 more slides. Those of you who want to stick around afterwards, I might do a little bit more, but we'll be here for answering questions. So price indexing, let's wrap this thing up. And requires objective data selection. We've not done that at all in this class. There are methods which we do show on stats and graphs 1. We assume you're going to use your best judgment on getting the data set of properties that actually compete directly with the subject property. Generally, people ask me, how many comps how much data do I need? Well, you know, as appraisers, we don't get to ask that question. We got to deal with whatever data is there. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 2,000, especially on the commercial side for cap rates. We do that in the stats, graphs, and data science class. So a quick review. Why are graphs so important? Because the human brain is really very good visually. That's how we get most of our information. Once you get past 5 or 6 comps, the human brain just doesn't do very well. But graphs are good. We're not restricted by 8.5 by 14 forms anymore. We're going to be seeing dashboards. Most market segments are more than 3. You already knew that, or sometimes it can be less than 3. So that's another thing we teach, is how to deal with that issue, how to effectively expand your data set when you really don't have it. So creating a scatter plot, a quick review, select the 2 variables, price sale and date of sale. Time goes on the x-axis, the horizontal. Dollars goes on the vertical axis. And each dot tells you the date and the price of that particular sale. Least squares is is an association between the 2 variables. It becomes a regression only when you, the modeler, decide which one causes which. And you may be surprised that's not always obvious. In fact, in my class, we show a gross example where it is the other way around. The data you put in controls the result. Most of it's math with just 1 or 2 major modeling decisions. You are the modeler. You decide which model to fit. In the traditional appraisal process, we say there's 3 models: cost approach, income approach, and sales comparison approach. Those are all models. Appraisal of real estate, the book says the appraisal process is a model. So those are 3 submodels. We're just reducing, data science reduces the appraisal problem into smaller models and smaller decisions that are more, creates precision and accuracy. The computer carries out the algorithm. It sends back to your eyes what you wanted to see so you can understand it. And it delivers summary results with summary statistics like mean, median, mode, range, that type of thing. You are the modeler. The computer carries out instructions. You make three modeling decisions for price indexing, just to be clear on this. What is the assignment data frame? What we teach is that when you first start out, you want to download all the data you think you'll ever need for this appraisal problem. And then you chip away at that till you get down to what's relevant. In the past, it was so hard to collect data. That was our focus, just scraping together 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. So the second modeling decisions, how far back do you go? You go back 30 to 50% further in time than you think your oldest comp would normally be. What trend line fits the data? We suggest follow a pattern and do it consistently. Always do a linear trend line first. Do the third order polynomial that allows the curve to flop twice. That helps your eyes see what, and then, or adjust like Craig did to reduce down to shorter periods of time. So identify the competitive market segment. Select the date of sale and the price of sale. Generate your scatter plot. Insert a linear trend line. Validate or modify with a third order polynomial. See if your modeling is good or not. Then calculate the simple regression coefficient. I'm going to quit with that. We are at 2 hours. We'll hang around for a while. Cindy, do you have a secret code to give them for a discount for the class, or have we already got that?
Everybody should have the code.
Okay. Go to georgedell.com. If you have any trouble,
It's in their emails. If they get the blog, it's in the blog.
Okay. That gives you at least $30 off on the class, even if you don't want to subscribe to the asset analyst report. Not everybody wants that. The asset analyst reports goes into topics much more deeper, detailed, and thorough. Hey, thank you all for being here. It's been an incredible experience. I've never seen anything like 1,000 people show up for a webinar. So I got a little touch of ego here going on. I love it. Thanks so much for being here. Glad to hang around.
We have a couple people who have their hands up. We have hands up for questions.
Stop. Wait a minute. Okay. If you don't want any more, feel free to agree. I think Gary was the one asked about converting the price, the dollars per day to a percentage. Okay. There's several answers to that. This is not an easy answer. The first answer is once you've got the dollar adjustment times the number of days, why do you want a percentage? That's another, you've already got the dollar amount. However, I also didn't realize last time we did this was that much software forces you to put in a percentage rather than a dollar amount. I called my good friend Wayne Pugh, who runs SFRep, Praise It software, and talked to him about that. And without going into detail, he's rewriting his software so that it's optional. You can put in either the dollar amount using the methods we've talked about here, or a percentage. Okay, that's part of the answer. The other part of the answer is you have a problem when you want to convert, when you've got a dollar adjustment and you want to convert to a percentage. Now you have another decision to make. What's going to go in the denominator? You have the numerator, which is the adjustment. What's going to go in the denominator? In theory, that would be your appraised value, which you don't have yet. The next best thing would be the median of the data set you selected. It's still subjective because you picked it subjectively, but that's the best answer we've got. So you take the dollar amount you have, divided by the median of the data you used to get there, and that should give you a percentage. And it should be a percentage for that. Let me make sure I get this right. That's the percentage change for that time period. So if it's 100 days, now you have to multiply that percentage times 365 to get the annualized percentage rate. So now to really do it right, you have to explain three things. Number one, what you picked for the numerator, the denominator, that this percentage is annualized, it's a straight line, it's not a compound, and that you backed into it. I don't know if that gives the answer. We've worked it over. I've talked to several people about that. That's about it. The real answer is that, and by the way, Wayne is aware that there are other software providers out there. Says you tell them that we're changing, so they'll change too. And I noticed Bill is on here, so maybe we'll have an effect there. Let's see.
When we open it to questions, Cindy, can you unmute everybody?
I can ask everybody to unmute. I got John Blackburn has had his hand up, so I'm going to ask him to unmute so we can hear his question.
Thanks. I don't remember what it was.
You should write it down. All right. Okay. And then Hope Goldsmith also has her hand up.
I know what John's question was, is how do I improve my memory? Okay.
More RAM.
When you get that solution, tell me too, would you?
This tags on to the memory question. Will this recording be available?
No.
Okay.
At least not yet. Now, Cindy probably has a better answer for you. So go ahead, Cindy, and respond to that.
You're diverting that to me. I keep referring that to you.
Okay. This is an experiment, our success. What I really need from you guys is advice on how to handle this. It's expensive to put these things on, aside from our time, even paying Zoom. If you have any suggestion on how we can do this, provide this type of service,
Sure.
help get you credit for it, like Craig was talking about, and get around the incredible layers of red tape to get one class approved in every state in this country costs financially about $7,000 in fees. It's about 120 forms, I think. You got to get the class approved, the school approved, and the instructor approved. Those are all 3 different forms. The overhead, red tape, bureaucracy is just incredible. It's prohibitive. If anybody has suggestions on that, like Craig did, please help us, because I'd love to do more of this. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes. We got a couple more people who put their hands up. Jason Cohen and then Gary. So Jason, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Hey, thank you guys for doing this. A pretty simple question, I hope at least. Is there a minimum number of observations, below where you would start to think your time series adjustment is no longer credible, or what's the good gauge for that?
I'll answer that. And I sort of did before what I said. We don't get to ask that question. We have to deal with whatever data is there. Here's a better answer. If it's 3 or 4 or 5 data points, you just look at them and use your appraiser judgment. Now, I was doing a taking out in Imperial Valley off the highway. And Imperial Valley was the last area in the country to recover from the last recession we had. And this particular property had residential apartments, commercial, so some open area. And basically I ran 4 different trend lines. I had hundreds of houses. That was no problem. And I had a trend line on that. One of the property types was for apartments. I think I had 7 data points, and I ran a trend line on that, even though I thought I probably don't need it. But strangely, that lined up really closely with the SFR trend line. And then for the commercial, I only had 4 data points, and I ran a line on that, and amazingly, running 3 or 4 on even different property types to just help me understand that Imperial Valley was coming up. It was highly linked, and all property values were coming up. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the answer is if you're below 4 or 5, go back to the traditional approach. Everything you learned in your classes up to now, stick with it. Use your judgment. Once you get past 7 or 8, 9, now you can see markets instead of comps. Use the graphs. Use this method.
Okay, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Gary, can you unmute?
All right. Thank you so much for your hard work. It's greatly appreciated. Briefly, my a la mode software allows me to make a market change adjustment based on dollars per month. So if I take our dollar per day adjustment and multiply that by 30, would that give me a reasonable, logical adjustment?
Yeah, close enough, unless it's February or July or August. I mean, what are we going to do? Yeah, I'd call it 30.
Another way to do it is
I might throw one sentence in my reconciliation so the client's aware that that's exactly what I did. That my software prohibits me from doing it on a daily basis.
Hey, Gary, another option would be multiply it times 365 and divide that by 12.
Okay, sure.
Right.
Good idea.
There you go. Okay, I don't see anybody else with any new hands up here. Anybody else with questions?
All right. Well, thank you very much for being here. Have a
Oh,
great.
wait, we got somebody. Barry Phillips just dived in right here at the last second.
Okay.
So can you unmute yourself, Barry?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't see you, but you're there.
Okay, I want to make sure you can hear me. I don't have a webcam on this computer, but anyway, one question I had, I use an older version of Excel. I've got like the 2010 version, and working in it, I don't see I can't find where I can show the linear on the graph. Do you suggest getting the newer version of Excel, or should I try to look at getting the what's it called? What's the
Numeric.
other?
Yeah,
Well,
numeric.
Yeah,
numeric.
You want professional advice or personal advice? Personal advice is start using open source software. The main problem with open source software is that there's no marketing budget. So the only way you hear about it is from people like me.
Okay.
We use numeric in my class. There's 2 or 3 other spreadsheets that are open source that are really very close to Excel. And I'm surprised, you know, I've used the 2010 version. I believe we were able to do it in that. So I believe you can do it in the 2010 version.
Okay. Well, I'll look around in there, but so the numeric, is it only through you, or is it something we can get in your class if we do it?
It's free. So
It's free online.
Okay.
And there's instructions on our YouTube page on how to download and install numeric, RStudio, and R. Email me, send me an email, and I'll send you links for those.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate that. I
Okay.
appreciate
and-
everything today too.
Yes. All right. Ken Dix, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can. Just for on that last question,
I
all
can't.
this, all this functionality works in Google Sheets as well, so you can build your graphs off of that.
Yes. Yeah. Hi, Ken. I meant to mention your name too. We've been in contact recently.
No, that's okay. Great day today, George. Thank you.
You're,
Thank you, Craig.
you're one of my encouragers, and I appreciate that very much.
Okay, David Clement. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I have. Could we just see just a few minutes of R? That has just been baffling to me, but is so interesting. It's 70 years old. I need to learn to code, but I would really like to see just a small demonstration if you have time.
I can do that. I'll do that right now. I need to get back on with the new share.
If you've had your chance to ask your question, can you lower your hand? That'd be helpful. That way I don't get confused unless you have another question.
I'm going to do about 5 minutes on this. It's pretty large top. One of the problems with R and RStudio is that it's a whole universe. It's not just a program. It's open source. It continues growing. There are literally about 20,000 free packages for various services and algorithms and programs. They're all free that people do it. The support system is incredibly good. My joke is always, it's better than Microsoft even. Yeah. Okay, so you got it up there. So here's the same data set we had earlier on. I'm going to go through this quickly. Notice that this is RStudio. It's divided into 4 screens. It takes advantage of modern hardware and the incredibly high resolution we got. I've already downloaded 2 data sets here, dataset 0 and Eagle SFR, and I did that by pushing this button right here. And I did it from Excel, and this menu came up. Then I went to browse, and I went to wherever I had those files stored. Yeah, excuse me. It's hidden behind my camera. I have it near the top of my. Okay. Okay, very quickly, data set 0 is what I'm going to use here. And if I want to do a scatter plot, I do PLOT. This is a base R and data. See what happens? It's helping me along. So it's both a command line and a pick list. It combines the best of both and gives you artificial intelligence like. So that's the command for a scatter plot. Watch down here in the bottom right-hand pane. I'm going to hit Control Enter, and it's that quick. Now I know it's ugly, but it's that quick. You need to know that. If I want a histogram, I'll do HIST, open parenthesis. Now let me back up here. When I wanted a scatter plot, it knew that data set only had 2 fields in it, so it just immediately did it. Now if I want to do a histogram of data set 0, it's going to give me an error message. So I'm going to hit Control Enter. See down here? Error messages are my friend. They're not my enemy. They're scary, but okay, what did I do wrong? Well, a histogram is only 1 variable, not 2. So now I need to tell it which variable. So I'm going to put in a $sign. That's the standard. And I want a histogram of the sale prices. Now I'm going to hit Control Enter. And there's a histogram. And if I want to make those breaks, the width of the bins different, BREAKS equals, let's call it a 10.
You need to spell breaks correctly.
I sure do. That would have been another error message, right? George, you bungler, you messed up again. No, there's a histogram. And I can change that to a 20. This is a real small data set, but you get the idea. And that's very convenient. I'll just do a little bit more here on Eagle SFR with the other data set. That's what the data set looks like. And I've got a pre-made script that I prepared for this class. These here 4 libraries, they're free. Again, I need to let this appraisal assignment know that I'm going to use the ggplot2 graphing package. I'm going to use GG themes, which is the different colors and kind of making things pretty. It's going to use tidyverse, which is just perfect for appraisers for sorting data, working with the rectangular data, and dplyr is a part of that. So I'm going to make sure. I'm going to make sure all 4 of those are installed. Now watch how quick. Instead of paying $200 or $300 for each of these, here's what I do. I hit Control Enter. And they belong to me. They're free, open source. Okay, so ggplot is the graphs package, and then it needs to know what data. And if I click on this row, nothing much is going to happen, but watch down at the bottom right. It's created a palette for me. It's layers, kind of like GIS. Now if I say, okay, I want the sale price, I can go to this row, hit Control Enter. Not much happens, but at least now it knows that I'm going to do sale prices. Now I can put my cursor on the 3rd line, and I'm going to use the histogram geometry. So I put my cursor anywhere there, hit Control Enter, and there's my histogram. I'm going to go through this quickly. I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time here. How about the neighborhood again? This time I'm going to make it a little prettier, make the color of the bars, the fill red and the outline black. And there it is. Now I want to create the competitive market segment by making the square foot of the building between 1,200 and 1,800 square feet. And I'm going to put the cursor there. The graph is not going to change. All I'm doing is creating a new data frame, which is the CMS, the competitive market segment. Nothing happened. Now I'm going to go down here. Oops. Oh yeah, I do want to, okay. Yeah, I did do it. Control Enter. Okay, there's the neighborhood. There's a CMS. And there's a way to overlay those on each other that's beautiful. I'm just going to do a quick box plot here. The same routine. I'm going to right to the end, and it's going to be yellow. This is a box plot. which is similar to a histogram in that it shows a distribution on one variable, in this case, sale price. So there it is. This is the middle of the box here is the median.
Boy,
So the middle line is median. The top and the bottom of the box is the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. So half the sales in this neighborhood are inside the box. These go out 1.5 times the box, and these are outliers. Let's see here. I don't want to spend too much time on this.
I think there's more questions too.
Yeah, probably. Hold on.
Yeah, we have someone else with a question.
I'm going to stop here. So there's the, I'm going to wrap this up with this statement. You see me do this pretty quickly because I had this code all pre-written. Feel free to steal this from me and that's what we do in class. The community of asset analysts is a group of about 40 or 50 of us now that share stuff. So we're an open source movement. And to use this, you only have to, if you've properly downloaded your data and renamed your fields from Excel the way we suggest in the community, there's only one thing you need to change in this code. And that's the name you gave to your data set for your appraisal. You change that one name and they'll give you that. Remember, Craig was talking about that. You can use templates. R is designed for templates, for data analysis, to shortcuts. You create something once as an appraiser, you have to have some sense of this code that's going on here. But you also need to know, once you got it and it works for you, you're good. I'm going to stop there, and I'll leave that up there, and more questions. And
Okay, Cindy had a question. Can you unmute yourself?
okay.
Hi, George. It's Cindy Harris.
How you doing?
Since I took your class, I use numeric. And my question is, when there's a range of comparables, and I think in your last example, when you were doing the time adjustments, I think the high sale was 2.5 million, the low sale was 500,000, something in there. It kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies to have the same time adjustment for a $500,000 home as a $2.5 million home. And I'm just wondering if you could address that.
Well, it's a really excellent question. Answer number one is that's probably the neighborhood, not the competitive market segment. If your subject property is a $750,000 range, you want to cut it off at the top and limit it. Control not on price, control on the key variables, basically living area for residential.
Well, in our area, a lot has to do with view and proximity to the beach. And so can be you have to kind of control for more than that in many cases. Absolutely. But I do have a large, when I'm doing a data set, say in Manhattan Beach, there's a huge disparity of, depending on where they're located in their view, they can have the same GLA, the same lot size of data set. And so I have issues with the time adjustment using this method, for instance, on those type of properties. Do you think it's probably wise to try a different method?
No, okay. To continue the answer I was giving you, your thinking is right on. You need to control on the key variables beyond square foot, like view, like whatever else is important. Use your judgment at a minimum, and get it down to the properties that are part of that actually compete. I mean, basically your question was your answer. Only put data in which is competitive to your subject property. The ideal would be a property that was actually available on your effective data value, that a buyer would have looked at both properties.
But see, that's only one you need a few data points. The more the merrier, correct?
Of course.
So if I have 5, the data is not so great than if I have 50, and I rarely have 50.
Can I help
all
answer
those
this?
Controlled. Yes, go ahead.
Let me kind of help answer. Hey, Cindy, you saw the example that I purposely picked for our export. I went out and went inland. I got away from the ocean and so forth.
Yeah,
So
you
that-
had this great tract, yes.
Right, but and the reason is, here are a bunch of really similar properties. I don't have issues. If I was in an area with view, I would have selected view N. The problem is agents will put a Y.
Oh,
If
I
there's a-
know. I
if there's a-
can't rely on them. I
If
can't.
there's a view of the street, yes, neighborhood. So then, you know, I'm familiar with Manhattan Beach. Stats like we're doing don't generally work in Manhattan Beach. You're better off with some kind of a paired sales almost.
Okay,
That's okay. You go back a year, 2 years, and
Yeah.
you're developing the trend, but you're not going to have 20, 30, 40, 50. You might have 3.
yeah,
And then one has a 180-degree view and one's got a 90-degree view and one looks to the ocean and to the city. Manhattan Beach is probably one of the most difficult areas to appraise, and this is really difficult to apply. Then you got the homes being torn down and they're putting up a new home. So a house sold, but the house didn't sell, the land sold, right?
well, you have to account for age, because if it's older than 1990, it's going down.
That's the point I'm making. That is not a good area generally for this type of analysis.
Okay. I
uh,
love it, George. I want to use it as much as I can. My hands are tied sometimes.
Well, recall that in the class, we talk about the 5 dimensions of similarity. The property type, transaction should be cash equivalent, time, how far back in time you want to go, spatial location stuff, and all those other features. If you've properly bracketed around your subject property features, then the trend line you get, the time adjustment is for the market segment, for the competitive market segment, not for the subject property. It's for the market. We're measuring the market, not comps. We're measuring the market, not the subject. Hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay, Mark Lindsay has his hand up. Can you unmute, Mark?
Just wanted to show support for Cindy's dilemma because I'm in the North Bay area, just north of San Francisco. I grew up in the San Diego area, in Coronado actually. And so I feel you for the beach projects. They're super difficult. And I work in Stinson Beach, which is coastal and very high priced. So I'm generally working between a price point of 2 million upwards of sometimes 15 million. And I think when you get into those kind of numbers, condition and building quality are just absolutely huge. So I spend a lot of time with my local agents sort of sussing out what are the less measurables in the data that's out there. But typically, generally, you know, if you've got unfettered views, you know, across the beach, you know, you're literally there without any telephone pole or neighbor's roof line or deck railing or something obscuring the view, that's in quotes your $1 million view. And so I've over time kind of carefully peeled back the onion layers on comps and just salt them away and use them again and again. And this is where George's mathematics works so well for time adjustments, is sometimes I've got to go back 10 years to use a truly competitive sale to sort of set my adjustments, if you will, and set everything up. I got to put my flag in the sand and say, when you're coming to the beach, this is another world. And this is where it starts. So if you're at the very end of the street and you're looking at nothing but white water in the blue Pacific, that's the place to start. Everything else you've got to learn to make adjustments for. But that time adjustment sometimes can help you going back 3, 4. I've gone back as far as 10 years doing time adjustments, and they really seriously do work.
Thank you.
Thank you, George.
I put on the screen here. Remember, our goal is to do as best as we can. So you starting from ignore it and pretending it doesn't exist to 0, getting down narrow, smaller and smaller. The closer you can get to what actually competes with the subject property, the better a number you get. That's the simple solution. Is it going to be perfect? No, you're making a couple of modeling decisions. How much data do you put in there? Is it a straight line or not? But you're getting a heck of a lot closer to it with this method than any of these other methods.
Anybody else with a question? I just don't see any new hands raised. I'm going to unmute everybody.
Well, thank you all very, very much. Tell your friends and neighbors. We will probably be doing this at least one more time after this, the next stats and graphs class.
Thank you, George and Craig and Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, everybody.